Welcome back. Tonight, we're leaving behind the grand halls of emperors and the roar of revolution. Instead, we're slipping into something much softer. The ordinary days of Qing Dynasty China. A place of clay rooftops and tea steam, of slow mornings and markets that smell of sesame oil and dust. We won't follow generals or scholars tonight. We'll walk beside basket weavers, noodle sellers, and sleepy grandmothers. No one here is in a hurry. There's no rush, no climax. Just a rhythm of life, woven from chores, chatter, and cups of warm tea. Let your breath match the gentle sway of laundry in a courtyard breeze. Let the weight of the day melt into the cobblestones beneath your feet. Whether you drift off with the first scene or stay until the last rice bowl is scrubbed clean, the world will carry on. One simple moment at a time. The day doesn't begin with a trumpet. It begins with a wooden door creaking open and a broom dragging across stone. Somewhere, a hen squawks softly. A pot lid clinks. In a narrow courtyard behind a sloped tile roof, a woman sweeps yesterday into a corner. Dried leaves, a few chicken feathers, a forgotten sandal. It's early, but not cold. The warmth seeps through the clay walls slowly, like it always has. Smoke curls from a small chimney, carrying the scent of rice and damp wood. No one talks much at this hour. The sounds are gentle and familiar. A sandal slipping onto a foot. Chopsticks tapping together in preparation. The soft grunt of someone lifting a water bucket from the well. Breakfast is simple. A bowl of millet porridge with sweet potato still steaming. A preserved egg sliced carefully. Maybe a sliver of pickled turnip, tucked next to a mound of rice. It isn't a feast, but it fills the belly. That's enough. Children stir behind paper screens. One coughs. Another shuffles out with hair like a storm cloud, blinking toward the light. No one scolds. The morning will shape them back into humans soon enough. A grandfather pours tea with deliberate hands. The pot is old, its spout chipped, but the pour is steady. He sips slowly, watching steam rise like a ghost in no hurry to vanish. There's no schedule posted on a wall. Only the sun creeping down the bricks and the familiar pull of tasks that need doing. The day has begun. Not with drama, just with breath, heat, and the scrape of straw on stone. The road is still half asleep. Dust rests undisturbed across the cobblestones, patterned faintly with the tracks of carts that pass through in the night. A pair of chickens wander freely, pecking with no sense of urgency. Their feathers catch the first light of the day, golden and dull all at once. A shopkeeper unlatches his shutters with a quiet clack, swinging them outward so the morning air can drift in. Inside, his shelves wait in neat rows, lined with packets of dried herbs and jars of fermented bean paste. He lights a coil of incense and sets it near the doorway. The smell rises slowly, curling into the air like it remembers where it's going. Next door, a noodle vendor drags his stool into place. He doesn't speak, just stretches once, exhales, then begins to slice scallions. The blade hits the board with a rhythm he's had for years. It doesn't change, not even when a neighbor passes by and nods good morning. The market isn't open yet, but the street is starting to stir. A boy runs past with an empty basket twice the size of his torso. He's been sent ahead to claim a good spot for his mother. He pauses to fix his sandal strap, mutters something about it being cursed, then keeps going. Farther down, an old woman rolls a cart over the stones. It creaks with every bump. Inside, there's only tofu for now, still warm in cloth wraps. She hums under her breath, not for company but for the tofu. They say it turns out softer if you sing near it. No one rushes. The sun hasn't climbed over the roofs yet, and there's time before the first bargaining begins. A few vendors chat softly while laying down mats. They speak of cabbage prices and a neighbor's sick dog. Nothing urgent. Just facts passed like folded cloth. Somewhere a teapot whistles, not loudly, just enough to remind everyone that the day is moving, even if slowly. And so the street breathes, still quiet, still kind, but awake now and stretching its limbs. By mid-morning, the quiet has become a murmur. The street no longer feels empty. It's still gentle, still soft around the edges, but the stillness has lifted. Now baskets bump against knees. Wooden poles are hoisted over shoulders. A folded mat is slapped clean with the palm of a hand. Vendors begin to settle into their places. Not assigned, not official, but known. Everyone remembers where the radish man usually sits, and where the woman with candied hawthorn strings sets her stool. They do not need signs, just familiarity. A young couple lays out cloth and begins arranging pottery. Each bowl is turned a little, just so, not because it matters to the buyer, but because it matters to them. The glaze on the teacups still holds a shine from the kiln, touched only by their careful hands. One of the handles cracks slightly in the fire. They set that one off to the side. Someone might still want it. Down the road, a butcher sharpens his knife on a flat stone, his motions slow and steady. He won't have much today, just some bone-in pork and a few coils of sausage. Still, he prepares as though expecting a crowd. He wipes a blade, sets out the scale, and adjusts his shea cloth by a finger's width. Everything in its place. Steam begins to rise from a bamboo steamer near the corner. The bun seller opens the lid with a flourish, revealing soft white mantou stacked like clouds. The smell reaches first. Yeast, warmth, a hint of something sweet. Children gather close, trying not to seem too interested. A man selling brushes rolls open a canvas wrap and unrolls his tools in a fan shape. Inkstones, calligraphy pens, packets of paper. He adjusts a brush with bristles fine enough to paint a whisper. Few will stop to buy, but he displays them with pride anyway. The noise never gets loud, just busier. Shoes shuffle on stone, cloth rustles as it's folded. Someone laughs low and short. A chicken nearly topples a display and is chased off with a flap of cloth and a quiet scolding. The market hasn't started, not officially, but the day is beginning to take shape. One mat, one jar, one steamed bun at a time. The first shoppers arrive without fanfare. They walk with baskets over arms and sleeves tied back, eyes already scanning the stalls before their feet have fully stopped. They're not in a rush, but they do not linger either. These are the early buyers, the ones who know which tofu is still warm and which greens wilt first in the sun. An old man squints at a pile of mushrooms. He picks one up, rolls it between his fingers, then sets it back down. The vendor does not speak. He just waits. When the man lifts a second one and nods, the vendor smiles, already reaching for the scale. Two women stand near a pile of ginger roots, discussing whether the rain yesterday will make them spicier. One insists it will. The other claims it never does. In the end, they both buy some anyway. The vendor throws in a tiny, knobby root as a gift. They thank him with a smile that means more than words. A boy carries a cloth bag that drags the ground behind him. He has been sent for vinegar and scallions, and already he's forgotten which kind of vinegar. He smells each bottle, shrugs, and chooses the one with the red thread tied around the neck. It seems right. There are no price tags, only conversations. Some buyers ask directly. Others gesture, raise eyebrows, or tap coins against a wooden tray. The bargaining is gentle, like a dance performed by people who've done it 100 times before. The seller asked for 9. The buyer offers 5. They settle without saying much on 7. No voices are raised. No one walks away angry. It is not a battle. It is a ritual. A woman selling beans fans herself slowly while chatting with a neighbor. They're not discussing beans. They are discussing someone's cousin who got a letter from Nanjing. The contents are a mystery, which is the best kind of letter. The sun has risen past the rooftops now, and the light falls across baskets and stores with a warmth that makes everything glow. Radishes shine like lacquer. Silk threads shimmer faintly in the breeze. Even the dust seems golden. The market is fully awake now, not loud, not hurried, but alive in the way a village heart beats, quietly and with purpose. At the far end of the market, where the street curves slightly and the shade lasts longer, there is a tea stall. It isn't large. Just a slatted wooden frame with a low bench and a clay stove kept warm by slow-burning coals. But everyone knows it. Not for the tea itself, which is plain and affordable, but for the way it waits without needing to call attention. The man who runs it is always there early, brushing ash from the stove and washing out the cups with boiled water. He doesn't speak unless spoken to. His eyebrows are thick and his sleeves are always rolled. His hands move slowly, with a kind of confidence that doesn't rush. The kettle sits quietly, not screaming, but murmuring. Steam rises from the spout in a steady line. He spoons dried leaves into a small pot, pours just enough water to coax out the scent, then waits. The first pour is not served. It's discarded, as always. A rinse, a cleansing. Then the real brew begins. One by one, people sit. Some stay only for a few sips. Others linger, letting the tea warm their hands and loosen the knots in their shoulders. A tailor settles in with a sigh and sets his bag beside him. Across from him, a carpenter sips in silence, watching steam drift like thread caught in sunlight. No one discusses anything important. A few comments about the price of duck eggs. A quiet joke about someone's rooster crowing at midnight. Laughter comes soft, without teeth. A child approaches the stall, eyes wide at the rows of cups. The tea master pours a half cup without being asked. The child bows awkwardly and scurries off, the cup wobbling in both hands. The tea itself is nothing fancy, just green, slightly bitter, and always hot. But it has a way of making time pause. The clay cups warm fingers. The bitter taste clears the mind. For a moment, no one needs anything more. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once and then gives up. A breeze lifts the edge of the awning and carries away a bit of the steam. The tea master adjusts the kettle and adds another pinch of leaves. And still, the bench holds its visitors. The street flows around them, but here, under the corner of shade, the world moves just a little slower. Tucked between a grain shop and a wall hung with woven baskets, the tailor's corner is narrow, but just wide enough for a stool, a low work table, and a bolt of faded blue cloth. It's midday now, and the sun leans straight down. The tailor squints as he threads his needle, steady even in the brightness. He works outside more often than not. The light is better, and the passing voices keep him company. His fingers are stained where the indigo dye has settled into the creases. He doesn't mind. It's a badge of his trade, worn like a soft ink signature. There are no mannequins, no dress forms, just a flat surface, a few smooth stones to hold fabric in place, and a small basket filled with tools. Scissors, 2 needles, a pincushion, and a bit of waxed thread. He keeps everything where it belongs. He doesn't like looking for things. A customer arrives carrying a bundle. It's a worn tunic, torn beneath the arm, faded along the collar. The tailor inspects it with a tilt of his head. He does not sigh, does not compliment. He simply nods and pulls the basket closer. He cuts a patch from a leftover scrap, turns the edges in, and begins stitching. His movements are small but precise, the kind that come from doing the same thing hundreds of times without boredom. A young boy watches from nearby, fascinated. The tailor doesn't speak, but he lets the boy stay. Watching is harmless and sometimes useful. The market hums around him, but he stays anchored. Occasionally, someone greets him by name. He nods. Once he smiles. When the patch is done, he smooths the tunic flat, checks both sides, and hands it back without a word. The customer places 2 coins on the table. No argument, no need. Between customers, he returns to his own work. Set of sleeves for a rice merchant. Pale grey cotton. The fabric is light and likes to slip, so he pins it carefully and mutters to himself when it shifts. Lunch waits in a cloth bundle near his feet. Cold noodles, a hard-boiled egg, and a bit of pickled mustard root. He'll eat when the sun shifts and the cloth stops glaring. For now, the needle moves. The thread follows, and the tailor, surrounded by passing feet and swirling dust, remains still. Not far beyond the edge of the village, the road turns to packed earth and then softens into a narrow footpath, lined with grass bent from regular use. It leads to the river, which flows slowly under the midday sun, quiet and dependable. The water is shallow near the edge, rippling softly over flat stones smoothed by years of work and weather. 3 women are already there, crouched low with their tubs balanced beside them. Their sleeves are tied up, their hair wrapped tightly. One dips a shirt into the water, lifts it, and slaps it against a rock with a sound that's more solid than loud. The rhythm is steady, dip, slap, scrub. Then again. A girl no older than 10 stands ankle-deep nearby, splashing at her own reflection when she thinks no one is watching. Her job is to rinse. She takes it seriously, but not too seriously. A frog leaps near her foot. She gasps, then laughs quietly. The conversation among the women is casual. They talk between the scrubbing. About a neighbour's injured goat. About how the squash this year looks thinner. About nothing really. Just enough to keep the moment company. One woman holds up a sleeve to the light. She frowns at a stain that won't lift. The others lean in, offering suggestions. Vinegar, sunlight, boiled water with crushed citrus peel. Each method has its champion. The fabric is rubbed again and returned to the water. It will come out, or it won't. Either way, the task will be done. Wet clothes are wrung out tightly and hung on lines strung between willows. The wind moves through the fabric like fingers. Shirts dance slightly. Trousers lean into each other. The sun, high above, does its part without complaint. Someone pulls out a gourd filled with barley tea. The cup is passed around, each woman taking a small sip. It's warm and just bitter enough to feel honest. The girl rinses her hands and reaches for a steam bun from a cloth bundle. She eats it in small bites, careful not to drop any in the river. In this quiet patch of the world, there is no rush. The river moves at its own pace. The stains come out when they're ready, and the women, kneeling on smooth stones, work through the pile one garment at a time until nothing remains but drying cloth and silence. Behind a curtain of bamboo and a low clay wall, the potmaker tends his kiln. It is built into the slope of a hill, half buried in the earth, shaped like a sleeping animal with a belly full of fire. The flames are low now, licking softly at the stacked pottery inside. The air smells of smoke, hot earth, and a hint of ash. He does not speak while he works. His hands are streaked with dried slip, his fingernails lined with grit. He moves with slow precision, checking the vents, adjusting the dampers, listening for the pitch of the flame as it shifts through the chamber. He knows the kiln's moods better than he knows most people. When it groans, he feeds it more pine. When it hisses, he lets it rest. Nearby, rows of pots cool on wooden boards. Some are tall and narrow for storing grain. Others are wide-mouthed jars for pickling cabbage or holding plum wine. A few are small enough for tea. None are perfect. A thumbprint here, a slight tilt there. He likes them better that way. Clay dust clings to everything. To the stone path, to the folds of his robe, to the brush he uses to wipe down each finished piece. He does not mind. Dust is part of the work. It softens the world, settles on the skin like a reminder of patience. A boy from the village arrives to pick up a water jug. He waits at the edge of the yard, shifting from foot to foot. The pot maker points wordlessly to a finished piece, its handle smooth and strong. The boy grins, bows, and hands over 2 coins. One rolls into the dust. He picks it up, wipes it on his sleeve, and pockets it without fuss. A sparrow lands on the edge of the roof, watches for a moment, then flits away. The kiln pops softly, the fire exhaling through the chimney. The pot maker sits on a low stool and runs a cloth over a finished jar. He leans close, inspecting the glaze as it catches the sunlight. A small crack runs along the base. He sets it aside. It will become his own. There is no schedule. The pots are ready when the fire says so. Until then, the wheel waits. The clay rests under a damp cloth, and the pot maker hums an old tune with no words at all. At the edge of the village, where the fields begin and the paths grow wide with wagon ruts, a farmstead settles into its midday pause. The sun has climbed to its highest point. Shadows shrink beneath trees. Even the oxen stop chewing, standing quietly in the shade. Inside the farmhouse, the floor is packed dirt, swept smooth by countless steps. A low table has been set in the main room, not grand, just clean. Around it, bowls appear one by one. Rice, a little sticky, steamed greens dressed in sesame oil, slivers of tofu fried to a golden edge, a preserved duck egg sliced carefully and set like a prize in the middle of a plate. The grandmother lowers herself to the mat first, knees cracking softly. She places her hands on her thighs and waits. The others follow. No one speaks yet. The food is simple, but the moment is not rushed. Outside, the father rinses his arms at the well. His sleeves are rolled. Bits of straw cling to his forearms. He steps inside just as the tea is poured, still steaming from the kettle pulled off the hearth. The children are already sitting, fidgeting. One picks at a grain of rice on the table. Another tries to poke a tofu cube without being noticed. A sharp look from their mother stops them both, but gently. She sets the last bowl down, then joins the others with a quiet breath. There is no announcement, just the clack of chopsticks as the meal begins. No one eats fast. The rice is eaten bite by bite, sometimes cooled with a sip of tea. The vegetables are passed in silence. Someone coughs. Someone sighs. A neighbour's rooster calls in the distance, as if trying to remember the time. The father speaks first. Something about the cucumbers growing too fast. The grandmother nods. She told him to plant them later. He doesn't argue. Instead, he plucks another sliver of duck egg and chews slowly. After the meal, bowls are stacked, and the children are sent outside to chase each other through the bean rows. The adults linger on their mats, watching the steam rise from the teacups, watching nothing in particular. The work will begin again soon. But for now, the sun is warm, the bellies are full, and the day folds briefly into stillness. The herbalist's shop is narrow and dim, nestled between a shrine and a storage shed. From the outside, it looks like any other wooden building, but step inside and the air shifts, cooler, still, filled with the scent of dried roots and ancient wood. Light slips through the paper windows in thin lines, just enough to illuminate the rows of drawers stacked floor to ceiling. Each drawer bears a hand-painted label. Not everyone can read them, but she can. She knows by heart which one holds dried chrysanthemum, which holds licorice root, and which one should never be opened with wet hands. The herbalist moves quietly through her space, a soft cloth tied around her waist, sleeves tucked high. Her hands are stained faintly from decades of powders and tinctures. Her fingernails are short, her wrists are strong. On the table sits a brass scale with tiny weights in a lacquered box. She measures out goji berries and crushed bark for a boy's cough. 2 parts warmth, 1 part bitterness. She wraps the mixture in parchment and ties it with string. No words are exchanged, only a glance, a nod, and a small coin placed in a ceramic dish near the edge of the counter. Her shelves carry more than medicine. Bundles of dried orange peel hang from the rafters. Jars filled with floating roots line a windowsill. A cluster of star anise rests in a bowl like something forgotten and beautiful. Not everything is used often, but everything has a purpose, eventually. An old man stops by for pain in his knees. She gives him a blend of ground deer antler and warming herbs. He asks if it will work. She says maybe. He laughs, not disappointed, just old. In the back room, herbs dry on woven trays. The smell of mugwort and ginseng clings to the air like dust. She checks each tray with the tip of her finger, testing for dryness. Nothing is rushed. Too soon, and the medicine turns weak. Too late, and it turns bitter. Outside, someone knocks. A mother holding a feverish child. The herbalist gestures them in, already reaching for ginger and cinnamon bark. The room remains calm. There are no miracles here, just leaves, roots, water, time, and a woman who knows how to use them. In the courtyard, beside the temple, under the long shadow of an old elm tree, a dozen children sit cross-legged on woven mats. Their heads tilt down over bamboo slates, brushes in hand, the soft scratch of ink on wood the only sound for a while. The teacher watches from a low stool, fan waving slowly in one hand, the other resting on his lap. He is not young. Robe is patched, and his beard is streaked with grey, but his posture is straight and his eyes sharp. The children respect him, not because he demands it, but because he expects it without saying so. Behind them, the tree hums with the wind. Its leaves rustle like whispers of old poems, the kind recited again and again until they lose meaning and become rhythm. Somewhere nearby, a sparrow calls and is ignored. One boy dips it brush too deep and smudges the character for virtue. He frowns, tries again. Another stifles a yawn and is met with a single knock from the teacher's fan against the wooden bench. It is not punishment, just a reminder. The lesson today is simple. The Analects as usual. A passage about humility. The teacher reads aloud once, then again softer. A girl repeats it under her breath, writing each stroke with care. She is slower than the others but never scolded. Her brush moves like it means every word. At the edge of the group, the smallest student sneezes. No one reacts. The teacher reaches into a cloth pouch, hands him a folded square of linen, and carries on without pause. There are no desks here, no blackboards, just the earth, a tree for shade, and scrolls stored in a wooden chest near the temple wall. The ink is made fresh each week, the brushes are shared, the knowledge is old. As the sun begins to lower, shadows stretch longer across the courtyard. The children finish their slates and line them along the wall to dry. One or two still glisten with fresh ink. The rest are marked with black strokes, neat or crooked, but all honest. The teacher closes the scroll, stands slowly, and dismisses them with a nod. No bell, no clapping, just silence and the rustling of feet on stone as the children scatter, still whispering lines from memory. Down a narrow lane where the buildings lean in close and the wind smells faintly of glue and dye, the lantern maker works with quiet hands. His shop is barely more than a room with an open front. The air inside is still, heavy with paper, paste, and the faint sweetness of pine oil. Wooden frames hang from the rafters like rib cages. Some are round, others tall and square. A few dangle upside down to dry, their thin bamboo ribs casting delicate shadows on the walls. They creak when the wind passes, like old bones remembering music. The lantern maker sits on a low stool with a jar of paste by his side. His hands move without thought. He brushes the thin glue in long, even strokes, then presses dyed paper against the frame, smoothing it gently from the center outward. The paper is fragile, and he does not rush. A single tear means starting over. On the table, bowls of red, gold, and soft indigo pigment wait beside slender brushes. He paints in silence, adding waves, clouds, and curling plum blossoms along the lantern's edge. The designs are never the same, though many are similar. He paints what feels right, not what is asked for. From time to time, a neighbor stops to watch. They say little. Perhaps they ask if the festival lanterns will be ready. He nods without looking up. They will be. His son sits nearby, cutting paper into strips. He is careful, but young. A pile of discarded scraps grows beside him. The lantern maker doesn't scold. He only shows him again how to press the blade at an angle, not too hard. The boy nods, tries again. Finished lanterns rest along a shelf, drying slowly. A rabbit glows softly against a deep blue sky. A carp swims in mid-leap across another. Some are plain, made only to hold light. Others are dressed in stories, waiting to flicker to life when dusk falls. Outside, the alley darkens. The first oil lamps are being lit. The lantern maker stretches his back, wipes his hands on a cloth, and lifts the newest piece toward the light. The paper glows faintly, soft and perfect in the gathering dim. It's ready, and tomorrow he'll begin again. Tucked at the far end of the street, behind a low wooden gate and a thicket of bamboo, the village bathhouse exhales a steady mist. The air is thick with steam and the faint scent of sandalwood. Warm water trickles down a stone channel beside the entrance, guiding visitors in like a gentle current. Inside, the walls are lined with smooth wood, darkened by years of heat and moisture. Lanterns glow low behind paper covers, their light softened by condensation. The floor is damp but clean, swept often with a straw broom that rests quietly in the corner. A young man removes his sandals at the threshold and steps in, bowing slightly to the attendant, who nods without a word. He leaves his robe folded in a woven basket and wraps himself in a cotton cloth, moving toward the washing area with practiced ease. Nearby, an older man scrubs his shoulders with a rough cloth, humming softly. His back is broad and marked with the kind of creases that only years can carve. The water glints on his skin like lacquer. Buckets line the wall, filled from a heated basin. Some pour the water slowly, savoring the warmth. Others dump it over their heads all at once, letting out a sharp exhale before settling into silence. No one talks much. The bathhouse is not for conversation. It is for pausing. A boy sits beside his grandfather, learning how to wash without wasting. The elder shows him how to scrub behind the ears, how to wring out the cloth properly. The boy watches, nods, tries, and gets soap in his eye. The grandfather hands him a towel and says nothing. That too is part of learning. In the far pool, steam rises in thick ribbons. The water there is deeper, kept at a perfect heat. 3 men soak in silence, their eyes closed, arms resting along the edge. Their faces are slack with stillness. Time does not follow them in here. Outside, evening falls. The light dims beyond the frosted windows, but the glow inside remains steady. As each bather finishes, they dry slowly, redress, and step back into the cooler air, faces flushed, movements slowed. The bathhouse remains, its steam drifting upward, joining the dusk without fuss. As the sun begins to sink behind the hills, the rice mill hums with its final energy of the day. It sits at the village edge, half open to the air, its wooden beams stained from years of steam and effort. The sound is steady, a low, rhythmic thump as the wooden pestle falls into the stone basin, again and again. The mill is powered not by water, but by the weight of people. A broad wooden beam juts from the pestle, and each time a person steps onto it, the beam lowers and pounds the rice. Then it rises again, slowly, as the person steps off. 2 boys take turns, hopping on and off, laughing softly, pretending it's a game. Their feet slap the wood in time with the beat, and the rice beneath grows finer with each cycle. A man nearby sorts the husked rice, winnowing it with a flat basket. He tosses it lightly, letting the chaff rise and float away on the breeze. The grains settle, clean and pale, in a neat pile. His movements are careful, practiced. He doesn't watch the basket anymore. He watches the sky instead, where clouds darken slowly to violet. The mill smells of starch and smoke. A small fire crackles nearby, warming water for tea and lighting the faces of those gathered to finish the day's work. Someone has brought a handful of boiled peanuts. They are passed around without comment, eaten between tasks. One of the older women crouches beside a sack of milled rice, tying it closed with a loop of twine. Her knees creak, but she doesn't pause. She ties the knot tight, then pushes the sack upright with the edge of her foot. It leans a little. That's fine. A few fireflies blink near the corners. Their light flickers against the beams, brief and soft. The boys still bounce on the beam, though slower now. The rice is nearly done. In the distance, a bell rings from someone's courtyard, not loud, but clear. A signal that the evening meal is ready. The man pours the last of the rice into a sack. The pestle is raised and left in its resting position. The mill falls quiet, the kind of quiet that feels earned. And as the sky deepens, the villagers drift away one by one, carrying the warmth of work and the softness of dusk with them. As the last light spills across the rooftops, kitchens across the village come to life again. Not loud, not hurried, just the quiet urgency of an evening meal. Doors are propped open to let the warmth escape. Smoke curls upward, carrying the scent of garlic, oil, and steamed rice. In one courtyard, a woman squats beside the stove, fanning the flames with a woven paddle. Her firewood crackles. The pot above it rattles gently as it begins to boil. A boy stands beside her, peeling garlic with small, clumsy fingers. He's slow, but he tries. She says nothing, just slides the sliced scallions into the pan and lets them hiss. Next door, someone chops cabbage, the blade tapping steadily on the board. The rhythm is familiar. So is the smell of soy and vinegar rising into the air. A clay pot simmers quietly, its lid bouncing now and then as steam tries to escape. In another home, a grandmother grinds sesame seeds into a fine paste, mixing them with sugar and hot water until they turn glossy and fragrant. She hums while she stirs. Not a song, exactly, just a sound that belongs to the motion. The tables are low and plain. Dishes are gathered slowly. A bowl of rice, white and steaming. Stir-fried greens, glossy and soft. Thin slices of pork cooked with fermented beans. A preserved vegetable soup served hot, but not scalding. Every dish has a place, but nothing is fancy. This is not a feast. It is just dinner. Children carry bowls to the table, carefully, but not always steadily. One spills a little. No one scolds. A cloth wipes it up without a word. When everyone's seated, the chopsticks click together, and the meal begins. No announcements, no raised voices, just the quiet sounds of chewing, sipping, and the occasional slurp of noodles that's too loud to be accidental, but too soft to bother anyone. Outside, the village is still. Lanterns sway gently from doorposts. Dogs curl up beside worn sandals. Crickets begin to sing somewhere near the fields. Inside, the bowls empty slowly. The warmth spreads, and for a little while, the world feels full. Not with noise, not with excitement, just with food, family, and the soft, steady rhythm of another day almost done. The village is quieted. Cooking fires are low, and most courtyards have gone dim. A few windows still glow with oil lamps, but the light is soft, held close to the floor. Even the dogs know it's time to settle. They stretch once, then curl into themselves, paws tucked beneath chins. From the far end of the road comes the soft knock of a wooden staff. Once, then again, measured, familiar. The night watchman has begun his rounds. He carries a lantern, square and simple, made of oiled paper stretched over a bamboo frame. Inside, a stub of candle flickers with each step. The flame dances just enough to cast shadows across the ground, but not enough to scare them away. His robe is layered for the cool air, tied at the waist with a faded sash. Over one shoulder hangs a cloth pouch filled with small stones and a folded list of names. He rarely reads it. He knows who's where. He's walked this path longer than anyone can remember. He stops at the crossroads and taps his staff twice against the stone marker. Not a warning, not a signal, just habit. Then he turns and walks on. A door creaks somewhere behind him. A woman steps out with a bundle of kindling and nods his way. He nods back. No words, just acknowledgement. At the grain store, he checks the latch. It holds. At the temple gate, he adjusts the lantern hung from the beam, making sure it won't blow out. A gust of wind lifts his sleeve, and he presses it down gently with his free hand. A cat crosses his path. He pauses, lets it pass, then keeps walking. He will pass each corner twice tonight, once in each direction. He will listen for sounds that don't belong, footsteps too quick, cries too sharp. He rarely hears them. The village sleeps well. In a small alcove, he sits to rest for a moment. He places a lantern beside him and sips from a flask of barley tea. It's gone cold, but it warms him all the same. When he stands, he doesn't sigh. He doesn't stretch. He simply picks up the lantern, shifts the weight of his staff, and begins walking again. The flame flickers ahead of him, steady and small. The village sleeps behind him, steady and whole. While most of the village slips into rest, one window still glows, not bright, not open, just a soft flicker from behind a thin paper screen. Inside, a woman leans over her stitching frame, her shadow long against the wall. The oil lamp beside her burns with a steady flame. The wick is short, trimmed carefully to avoid smoke. Its scent is faintly nutty, mingling with the quiet breath of the room. Everything else is still. No wind, no footsteps, just a whisper of silk thread pulled through cloth. Her embroidery hoop rests on her knees. In it, a field of cranes slowly takes shape. Their wings are outlined in indigo. She adds the red crown to one now, using a thread as fine as a hair. Her fingers are quick but gentle. She does not press the needle too hard. The fabric must not pucker. Each stitch is planned, but feels like part of something older, something known without needing to be spoken. She doesn't glance at a pattern. The design lives in her memory, taught by her mother, who learned from hers. The rest of the house is asleep. A baby in the next room breathes in slow rhythms. An old man coughs once in his sleep and turns over. She doesn't move. The needle goes in. The thread follows. Again, again. Beside her, a cup of cool tea rests untouched. The steam has long vanished, but she leaves it there, a companion more than a drink. A single hairpin lies on the table next to it. She pulled it out an hour ago when it started to dig into her scalp. She doesn't need it now. Outside, the night watchman passes. His lantern light flickers briefly against her window. She does not look up, only listens, counts his steps, then returns to her work. She finishes the wing she started, knots the thread quietly, and smooths the cloth. Her eyes are tired now, but her hands are not. She threads a new color, a soft grey, for the feathers beneath the wing. Just one more section, she thinks, then she will rest. But the stitches are steady, and the lamp is still full, so she keeps going. At the northern edge of the village, tucked just beyond a row of wind-worn cypress trees, the temple sits in stillness. Its gates are closed, not locked. They haven't needed a lock in years. The hinges creak faintly in the wind, but no one minds. Even sounds here feel gentle. Inside, the stone path is swept clean. The incense burner still smoulders, though no smoke rises now. Only the faint scent of sandalwood and ash clinging to the cool night air. A stray petal from the plum tree drifts across the step, caught in a breeze that moves like breath. The monk on duty tonight is old and small in stature, but his steps are soundless. He moves through the temple like he belongs to it, not the other way around. In one hand, he carries a lantern. In the other, a taper to light the final candle. The main hall is empty, as it often is. The statues rest in shadow, their faces calm and unreadable. Offerings from the day remain. 2 oranges, a bowl of rice, a folded note with neat brush strokes. Nothing has been disturbed. He lights the last candle slowly, holding the flame steady until the wick catches. It flares for a moment, then softens into a steady glow. He sets it down before the altar and bows once, deep and unhurried. The candle joins its siblings, now mostly burned low. Their flames shimmer against the polished brass, dancing in silence. No chanting tonight, no bells, just the soft crackle of wax and the quiet rhythm of a place that knows how to wait. He turns and makes his way back down the corridor. A moth flutters near the lantern, brushing the rim before disappearing into the dark. The monk pauses to adjust a scroll that has come unpinned. He presses the corner back into place with one finger, then continues on. Before closing the outer gate, he stops to look up. The sky above is clear, with stars scattered like seeds across black silk. Somewhere far off, a dog barks once, then nothing. He closes the gate with a soft push. It clicks into place. The temple remains as it has for generations, still, watched over, waiting with its lights low and its silence deep. The village has folded into itself. Courtyards have gone dark, windows shaded, lanterns burned to stubs. Even the animals rest. Chickens perch in their coops, heads tucked under wings. A mule shifts once in its sleep, then stills. The air holds a weight of quiet. In a small home near the river's bend, the last candle flickers low beside a sleeping mat. A child lies curled beneath a thin cotton blanket, one hand resting loosely near a wooden toy. It's shaped like a rabbit. One ear is chipped, and the paint has worn from the edges. Still, it sits beside him like a companion, unblinking. The child breathes evenly, the rise and fall of his chest as soft as the folds of his blanket. His face is slack with sleep, but his eyes twitch beneath the lids, dreaming. The room is plain, a stool, a basin, a stack of folded cloth. Above, the rafters creak as the night air shifts. A spider lowers itself by a thread, pauses halfway, then climbs back up. Nothing rushes. Outside, the moon is high. Its light slips through the cracks in the wall, tracing pale lines along the floorboards. The breeze moves the curtain slightly. It sways once, then stops. Even the wind seems to whisper here. In the dream, perhaps the boy's flying, or chasing a kite through endless fields, or standing on a wooden stool, peering into the forbidden top shelf of a cupboard. Dreams rarely follow the rules of the waking world. They float, as he does now, somewhere between yesterday's scolding and tomorrow's breakfast. His fingers twitch, his toes curl. The toy rabbit leans slightly on its side as though listening. In another room, his parents sleep deeply, undisturbed. The embers in their stove have gone dim, but the warmth remains. A faint scent of smoke lingers in the air, mixed with something sweet, maybe rice, maybe soap. The smells of the day, softened by sleep. Nothing stirs now. No carts on the road, no footsteps in the alley, just the quiet turning of dreams. And as the candle lets out its final breath and the last light disappears from the room, the village holds its breath along with it, still, whole, and dreaming in silence. Before the rooster crows, before the mist has lifted from the fields, the first sound returns, the soft scrape of a broom across stone. One stroke, then another. It is not loud. It does not need to be. The day is beginning again. A thin line of smoke rises from a chimney, curling into the pale grey sky. Somewhere nearby, a pot lid clinks against its rim. A kettle gurgles as water begins to boil. Light moves slowly across the rooftops, brushing the edges of tiles and warming the wood beneath windows still shuttered. A pair of sandals slap gently against the ground as a young man makes his way to the well. He carries 2 empty buckets balanced on a pole. They sway with his step, creaking in rhythm. He yawns, not bothering to cover his mouth. No one is watching yet. Inside one home, a grandmother stirs a pot of porridge with a wooden spoon, worn smooth from years of use. She tastes it once, then nods. It needs nothing. She covers it again and places 2 bowls beside the hearth. Her hands move with memory. The chickens rustle in their coop. A few birds call from the trees. The sun has not yet fully broken through, but the light is changing. Slowly, the air shifts from cool to warm, from night to day. In the tailor's corner, the stool is empty, but a folded robe waits on the table. In the tea stall, the fire is already lit. The pot begins to steam, and the first handful of leaves are measured with care. No one arrives yet, but everything is ready. A boy stumbles out into the courtyard, rubbing his eyes, hair sticking in odd directions. He looks around, unsure if he's awake. His mother hands him a wet cloth for his face, and he presses it to his cheeks with a grunt. The cold wakes him. he does not protest. From the alleyways, the quiet voices of vendors begin to rise. Someone mentions the weather. Someone else asks about ginger. A cart rattles past, its wheels worn and familiar. And just like that, without fanfare, the village exhales. The morning unfolds. Not new, not different. Just beginning again, as it always has. As it always will.